People online keep telling me to try out this absolutely insane phone that is surely better than the Galaxy S24 Ultra, the iPhone 16 Pro Max, the Pixel 9 Pro, even my beloved OnePlus 12. So I bought one and I tried it out for a couple of weeks, and I'm absolutely astounded by some of the stuff that this phone can do, and actually quite disappointed in others. So let me tell you about the best phone that no one is covering on YouTube. But before that, guys, I'm really trying to hit 100,000 subscribers, so if you wouldn't mind hitting that button, it would genuinely mean the absolute world to me. Thank you so much. Big, expensive flagship phones aren't new. We have the likes of the Ultras and the Maxes that cost 4 figures and offer super high-end specs. But this takes it to another level. If that's a Pro Max, this is a super duper Pro Ultra Intergalactic Max Uber spec. This is what Samsung, Google and Apple should be building and selling as their flagships over here in the West. The keen-eyed among you will have guessed this by now. It is of course the Vivo X100 Ultra. And let me tell you, this is the most excited I've been about a phone in years. This is the Huawei regen that no one's talking about. But it's also frustrating in so many ways that I can sort of get why not every enthusiast is ordering one right now, because it can be a pain. Because it was a China-only release, it means that if you order one by any means, you will be getting the Chinese ROM, and that has its own caveats that we'll get to later. It launched for the equivalent of just under $1,000 US, so you can get all the specs you'd expect for that kind of money. So for less than a Pixel 9 Pro, you get 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, and then at the highest end, you'll get 16 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage. Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, yes, this launched earlier this year, so it's not the 8 Elite, and so on. The sort of stuff that you'd expect from a flagship, top-level Android phone in sort of mid-2024. But it goes deeper than just the specifications, because you could just go and get a flagship killer for way less than this. Alright, starting with it comes with the charging block in the box for starters. Not many phones have that these days. But some of you might be thinking, oh, that's well and good, and it's an 80 watt brick, so the OnePlus 12 is a 100 watt brick. That must be better. Okay, fair enough, I get your logic. The X100 Ultra's charging is very good, way better than most of the Western phones, but it's not its greatest strength. Those cameras. Yeah, I know it's got like a dinner plate on the back of it and it kind of looks ridiculous, and I've already been told by my girlfriend that she would never own a phone with a camera setup like this on the back, no matter how good the quality is. But yeah, the quality is, it might be the best camera I've ever used. I don't cover specs a lot on this channel because I find them mostly redundant, but I'm going to put them up on the screen for you now because they're just insane. Like, the sensors and lenses here are ridiculous. Way better than what you find on a Galaxy Ultra, an iPhone Max, a Pixel Pro XL, or OnePlus. Those of you who know me well will know that I adore cameras and smartphone shooters in particular, so I was ecstatic to try these out. And the best compliment I can give the X100 Ultra's camera setup is that they were all I imagined they could be, and even more. I was besotted by not only the camera quality, which we will cover in depth here, but the experience of using it, which is arguably even better. So before we get into the samples, this is the camera app. And if I could sum it up, I'd say it feels like prime Huawei. Easy to use, loads of cool features like log recording modes, that same focal length switching setup that Apple, OnePlus and Oppo are doing, Astro mode, a heavy pro mode, and even that shaped bokeh that I raved about in my Huawei videos. That's all here. You can emulate like Russian lenses and stuff with this thing. It's ridiculous. Of course, a lot of people are going to be gunning for that 50 megapixel 1-inch type main sensor. It is an absolutely incredible main camera and offers not only that gorgeous natural bokeh that you get with having a bigger sensor up close, but it also gives you heaps of dynamic range, and thanks to the Zeiss branded colour, the tonal balance is some of the best that I've ever seen. Is it as good as the Hasselblad branded tuning? It might be, honestly. It's a slightly different approach, but it looks so good. This main camera is the best main camera I've ever used on a smartphone. It can genuinely see in the dark. It can see things that my eyes cannot, and it's capable of some superb sharpness and detail. Although it must be said that with these bigger sensors, you run into an issue with minimum focus distance, where you actually have to be slightly further away from it, otherwise it will switch to the lesser ultra wide and try and do some sort of macro photography. But the next star of the show, maybe this is the star of the show, I know, it's crazy, is that 200 megapixel 3.7 times optical periscope. It's a 1/1.4 inch setup, so about as big as most phones' main camera sensors, yet put into the telephoto, yet is behind an 85mm equivalent lens with OIS and macro capabilities. That big sensor and lens combo means you can get some really nice natural bokeh even without need for that sort of beautiful portrait mode. You just don't need it in a lot of cases because it looks so good out of the box. It was pretty much usable up to 10 times and you will get some good results, but it's going to depend on the subject matter because there's some sort of, I don't know if it's AI or just normal software processing that adds in features and sort of tries to sort of connects the dots, so to speak. And that's so obvious on text where it's so sharp it actually looks fake. And yeah, that's a bit of a shame. It's mostly noticeable on hard contrast items and can look pretty artificial. It is going to depend on what you're taking photos of though. The aforementioned ultra wide is still a very good camera, but is just not near at the level of the rest of the setup. It's a 1/2 inch setup, so about the same size as what you'll find on the OnePlus 12, 50 megapixels as well, gives you a huge field of view. Don't get me wrong, it can still take some great photos, but that sensor isn't nearly as capable as the other two on the back here, so it kind of feels unfair. What's also kind of nuts is that the selfie camera is a 1/2.76 inch sensor, meaning it's only fractionally smaller than the main camera that Google was putting into its Pixel before the 6 and 6 Pro. It takes some really nice selfies, and especially with that lovely shaped fake bokeh in the portrait mode. But since I'm not a big selfie taker, you be the judge here. Video quality is also exceptional, but despite the specs and features on paper, for me it just still doesn't top what Apple's doing with ProRes. Now the X100 Ultra does shoot 8K at 30 or Ultra HD 4K at 120, which is phenomenal. The former is limited to the 1x, but actually the 4K 120 can be done on the 1x and the telephoto as well, so that's really nice. There is a lot to like here: good stabilization, good colors. You can record log, but yeah, I haven't found any obvious like color conversions or Rec 709 conversion LUTs. So the color space transforming is going to be a task, and I'm not going to do that because like there's no documentation on it. So it's almost like, what's the point putting a log recording mode if you're not going to offer like a Rec 709 conversion on the website?
Some of you might be wondering why I've gone with the X100 Ultra and not the more readily available X200 Pro. And it's mainly because of the 1-inch sensor on it. Like, the 1-inch sensor is such a big deal for me that this phone kind of has to be placed in front of that. However, if you don't care about the 1x, the X200 Pro is pretty good.
By this point, you're probably thinking, wow, right, this means that you're probably going to switch to it as your main phone, right? I just wish my answer was yes, but it's complicated. The truth is, this phone does not stop reminding you that you're not meant to be using it outside of China. It's littered with remnants of its Chinese home market. And although you can load up the Play Store really easily actually via the Vivo App Store, it's the first thing you do, load in the phone once you've set it all up, and then go into the official Vivo App Store and just install the Play Store. And it works. Like, I have like Google Play services on here, so I've got Google Drive, I've got YouTube, like all of that stuff works. But it feels like a hacky workaround and not really a complete fix. It runs Android 14, and don't get me wrong, it's totally usable, more than, and so many people have switched to this phone, lots of enthusiasts have switched to this phone. You can, but it doesn't stop the whole experience feeling just a bit hacky, which is just a real shame. It's something I'm conflicted over whether it's worth the hassle. Because the rest of the experience is incredibly complete. Big bright 120Hz display looks just phenomenal. A really nicely crafted design with IP68 or 6.9 rating, has a 5500 mAh battery, huge battery, lasts all day, fast charging as I mentioned at the start of the video. It feels every bit as premium, if not more so, than the Western flagships we get. The speakers, the fingerprint scanner, the Wi-Fi speeds, it's all really high quality stuff, as it really should be. The Xiaomi 14 Ultra is probably the closest thing we have to this in the Western market, that does come with official Western software, but that phone isn't quite as high-end as this one. Perhaps I'll take a look at the 15 Ultra if and when that comes out, because the 14 Ultra has been out for almost a year now. I'm actually really sad about the lackluster software experience on the Vivo, because the hardware on offer it's given me new perspective on the whole ultra class of smartphones that we get over here versus what China's getting. And it almost feels like it's in a different category to the Galaxy S24 Ultra, the iPhone 16 Pro Max, the Pixel 9 Pro XL. They just cannot compete hardware wise with what this does. This is simply a level above those phones, and I wish it was sold over here with a proper European software. If the Galaxy S24 Ultra is £1,300, I'd spend $1,400 on this. It's that good. They're lying to you. This is in fact the best phone you can buy right now, but there's a reason why nobody is talking about it.